What if I told you that the most ruthless man in Chicago's underworld owed his life to a 3-pound Yorkshire Terrier? That the very monster who had ordered the execution of 17 men, who had built an empire on blood and fear, would learn the meaning of unconditional love 3 feet underground, buried alive in absolute darkness. This is not just another Mafia story. This is a tale of betrayal so profound it will shake you to your core, of suffering so intense you'll feel every suffocating breath alongside our protagonist, and of loyalty so pure and unwavering it will restore your faith in the impossible. Before we descend into the darkness with Vincent, the Viper Caruso, before we witness the miracle that science cannot explain and skeptics refuse to believe, I need you to do something for me. Hit that subscribe button right now. Smash the like button until your finger hurts. And comment below, tell me where in the world you're watching from. Are you in New York, watching this on your lunch break? In London, listening while you commute? In Tokyo, unable to sleep? In Lagos, sharing this with your family? In Mumbai, in Sydney, in Sao Paulo? Let me know, because this story is going to take us to the deepest depths of human cruelty and the highest peaks of redemption. And I want to know who's brave enough to take this journey with me. This story will test you. It will make you uncomfortable. It will force you to confront questions about whether monsters can be redeemed, whether love can truly conquer evil, and whether the soul of a man can be saved by the paws of a creature most people wouldn't give a second glance. Now, let's begin where all great tragedies begin, with a man who thought he was invincible, who believed he was beyond the reach of consequence, who was about to learn that pride comes before the most devastating fall. Vincent Caruso didn't start as a monster. He started as a boy in a cramped apartment on Chicago's South Side, the youngest of 4 children, son of a construction worker and a seamstress who worked her fingers bloody to keep food on the table. Little Vincent was smart, frighteningly smart. His 3rd-grade teacher, Mrs. O'Malley, had pulled his mother aside one day after class. "Mrs. Caruso, your son is gifted. He should be in advanced classes. He could go to college, maybe even on scholarship." His mother had cried that night, tears of joy mixed with despair. College cost money they didn't have. The neighborhood they lived in didn't produce doctors or lawyers. It produced factory workers, criminals, and corpses. Vincent's father, Giuseppe Caruso, had different plans for his youngest son. Giuseppe worked construction by day, but by night he ran errands for the Giordano family, one of Chicago's 5 major crime families. Small jobs, delivering packages, passing messages. Giuseppe wasn't a made man, but he was connected enough to keep his family fed when construction work dried up in the winter. "Education is for rich kids," Giuseppe told his wife when she mentioned Mrs. O'Malley's suggestion. "Vincent needs to learn the streets. That's the only diploma that matters in this neighborhood." Vincent was 12 when he witnessed his first murder. He'd been walking home from the corner store, carrying a gallon of milk and a loaf of bread, when he heard shouting from the alley behind Marchetti's butcher shop. Curiosity drew him closer, a fatal character flaw that would define his entire life. In the alley, 3 men surrounded a 4th. Vincent recognized 2 of them associates of his father. The man in the middle was begging, crying, offering money he clearly didn't have. "Please, I'll get it. I just need another week. My daughter, she's sick, the hospital bills." The largest of the 3 men, an enforcer named Bruno Castellano, pulled out a revolver. "Anthony, I like you. I really do. But Mr. Giordano doesn't give extensions. You knew the terms when you borrowed the money. Please, please, she's only 7 years old." The gunshot echoed off the brick walls. Anthony dropped like a puppet with cut strings. Bruno and his companions rifled through the dead man's pockets, taking his wallet, his watch, even his wedding ring. Vincent stood frozen at the mouth of the alley, the milk and bread forgotten. Bruno looked up and saw him. For a moment, their eyes met. Vincent expected to die. He was a witness. In the movies, witnesses always died. But Bruno just smiled. "Hey kid, you're Giuseppe's boy, right, Vincent?" Vincent managed to nod. "You didn't see nothing, right?" "No, sir. I didn't see nothing." Bruno walked over and pressed a $20 bill into Vincent's hand, more money than the boy had ever held at once. "Smart kid. You're going to go far." Vincent ran home. He told no one what he'd seen. He hid the $20 in a shoebox under his bed, and that night, he dreamed about Anthony's daughter, who would grow up without a father because her dad had borrowed money he couldn't repay. The dream should have horrified him, should have planted seeds of empathy, of moral outrage. Instead, Vincent woke up with a single thought crystallized in his mind. Don't be Anthony, be Bruno. By 16, Vincent was working for the Giordano family directly. He started as a lookout, standing on street corners and whistling when he saw police cruisers. Then he graduated to collections, going door to door in the neighborhood, picking up gambling debts and protection money. He was good at it, better than the older guys. Vincent had realized something crucial. People were more afraid of calm threats than loud ones. While other collectors would yell and smash things, Vincent would simply stand there, speaking in a quiet, measured tone. Mr. Petrocelli, you owe Mr. Giordano $3,000. The weekly interest is $200. You're 4 weeks behind. That's $800 in interest alone. Now I can see you love your family. Beautiful children. Your daughter, she's what, 13? Starting high school next year? The implication was never stated. It didn't need to be. Men paid Vincent faster than they paid anyone else. By 18, Vincent had his first kill. The target was a rival dealer named Marcus Williams, who'd been selling in Giordano territory. Vincent had been given the contract as a test. Could Giuseppe's smart boy actually pull the trigger? Vincent had found Marcus in an alley behind a nightclub, counting money from his evening sales. He'd approached with a smile, a friendly face. Marcus? I'm Vincent. Mr. Giordano sent me to discuss a business proposition. Marcus had relaxed slightly. Business propositions meant negotiations, compromises. He hadn't seen the gun until it was pressed against his ribs. Wait, I can pay. I'll stop selling here, whatever he wants. I'm afraid it's too late for negotiations, Vincent said, and pulled the trigger. Marcus didn't die immediately. He fell to his knees, blood spreading across his shirt. He looked up at Vincent with eyes full of tears. Please, my daughter. Her birthday is next week. She's turning 6. Please. Vincent had shot him again, not out of mercy, out of annoyance. The begging was pathetic. He'd walked away from his first murder feeling nothing. No guilt, no remorse, just a sense of professional satisfaction. He'd done the job. He'd proven himself. The Giordano family took notice. Vincent earned his nickname the Viper during the gang war of 2003. The Giordano family had been in conflict with the Moretti family over territory in the West Loop. What started as a few scattered shootings escalated into open warfare. Bodies dropped daily. The police were overwhelmed. The city was terrified. Vincent, now 25 years old, had proposed a strategy that was breathtaking in its ruthlessness. We don't just kill soldiers, he told Don Giordano during a secret meeting in the back of a restaurant. We kill their families, their children, their parents. We make it so painful to be in the Moretti family that soldiers start defecting. Don Giordano, an old-school mobster who still observed certain codes, had been horrified. We don't touch families. We don't touch children. There are rules, Vincent. Rules are for people who want to lose, Vincent replied coldly. Do you want to win this war, or do you want to be honorable in defeat? In the end, Don Giordano hadn't authorized Vincent's plan, but he hadn't stopped it either. He'd simply looked the other way. Vincent had orchestrated the murder of 7 Moretti family members over 3 weeks. Not soldiers, civilians. A wife here, an elderly father there, a teenage son. The message was clear: no one is safe. The Moretti family had sued for peace within a month. They'd ceded territory, paid reparations, and acknowledged Giordano supremacy. It was a total victory. And Vincent had been rewarded with his own crew. At 25 years old, he was the youngest capo in the organization. That's when the whispers started. The Viper. A snake who struck without warning, who had no mercy, who would kill anyone to achieve his goals. Vincent loved the name, loved the fear it inspired. Over the next 18 years, Vincent transformed himself from a capo into something far more powerful. When Don Giordano died of a heart attack in 2008, Vincent orchestrated a coup so swift and brutal that the other families barely had time to react. He eliminated 3 rivals in a single night, made men who'd been with the family for decades. He consolidated power, restructured the organization, and declared himself not Don, but CEO. We're not some relic from the 1950 seconds, he told the assembled soldiers at his first meeting as leader. We're a modern business. We diversify. we invest, we expand. Under Vincent's leadership, the organization moved beyond traditional mafia activities. They laundered money through legitimate businesses. They invested in real estate. They bought politicians, judges, police chiefs. Vincent's operation generated $200 million annually. He lived like a king. His mansion in Lake Forest was an $8 million estate with 12 bedrooms, an indoor pool, a wine cellar that held bottles worth more than most people's cars. His garage housed a collection of vintage Ferraris, Lamborghinis, and a 1967 Shelby Cobra worth $3 million alone. Women threw themselves at him. Models, actresses, socialites who wanted the thrill of dating a dangerous man. Vincent used them and discarded them with the same cold efficiency he applied to business. He had everything a man could want: money, power, fear, respect. What he didn't have, what he'd systematically destroyed in himself over 25 years, was humanity. Vincent Caruso at 43 was a perfect machine. He felt no guilt, no remorse, no love. He'd pruned away every emotion that might make him weak, that might cause hesitation, that might introduce the chaos of human feeling into his perfectly ordered life. He was invincible. He was untouchable. He was wrong. Dante Russo had been Vincent's right hand for 12 years. He was everything a consigliere should be: smart, loyal, ruthless when needed but diplomatic when possible. While Vincent was the hammer, Dante was the scalpel. They complemented each other perfectly. Dante had come up through the ranks the hard way. Son of a heroin addict and an absent father, he'd practically raised himself on the streets. Vincent had noticed him during a collection run. A 17-year-old kid who'd stood up to one of Vincent's collectors, demanding fair treatment for his landlord. "You've got balls," Vincent had told the teenager. "Stupid balls, but balls nonetheless. You want a job?" Dante had proven himself over and over. He was smart enough to know when to speak and when to shut up. Ruthless enough to handle difficult situations, but also creative enough to find solutions that didn't always involve violence. Vincent trusted Dante with his life. They'd been through 3 gang wars together, 2 federal investigations, countless close calls with law enforcement and rivals. Dante had saved Vincent's life at least twice, once taking a bullet meant for him during an ambush in 2015. They were brothers, not by blood but by choice, by shared violence and shared secrets. What Vincent didn't know, what he couldn't have known, was that Dante had been planning his betrayal for 3 years. It started with a woman. Her name was Isabella Romano, and she'd been Dante's girlfriend for 5 years. They'd met at a charity gala, one of those events where criminals rubbed elbows with politicians and everyone pretended respectability. Isabella worked in art restoration. She had no idea what Dante really did for a living. He'd told her he was in import, export. Dante loved her, truly loved her. In a life filled with violence and moral compromise, Isabella was the one pure thing. She made him want to be better, to get out of the life, to start over. He'd been planning to propose on a Saturday in June 3 years ago. He'd bought a ring, reserved a table at her favorite restaurant, practiced his speech. That Friday night, Vincent had called with an emergency. A shipment of cocaine worth $10 million had been intercepted by a rival gang. Vincent wanted immediate retaliation. "I can't tonight," Dante had said. "I have plans tomorrow, important plans." Vincent's voice had gone cold. "Are you telling me no? Vincent, just give me 24 hours. I'll handle it Sunday." "You'll handle it tonight, or you'll handle looking for a new job. And we both know there's only one way people leave this organization." Dante had gone. He'd coordinated the hit. 3 men from the rival gang died in a warehouse fire. The cocaine was recovered. But he missed his dinner with Isabella. When he finally made it to her apartment the next day, exhausted and reeking of smoke, she'd been packing. "Where were you?" she asked quietly. "Business emergency. I'm sorry. I'll make it up to you." In fact, he pulled out the ring. Isabella had started crying, but not tears of joy. "Dante, I found something in your jacket last week. A burner phone. I read the messages. I know what you do. I know what you are." Dante's world had collapsed. "Isabella, please. I can explain. You kill people. You're a criminal. Everything about us has been a lie." "Not everything. My love for you, that's real. That's the only real thing in my life." She'd shaken her head. "I can't do this. I can't be with someone who does what you do. I'm sorry." She'd left. Just walked out of his life. Dante had tried to follow, tried to explain, tried to convince her that he could change. But Vincent had found out about the relationship, about Isabella discovering the truth. "She's a liability," Vincent had said matter-of-factly. "She knows too much. She has to go." Dante had begged. Actually gotten on his knees and begged, "Vincent, please. She won't talk. I'll make sure of it. Just don't hurt her." Vincent had stared at him with those cold, dead eyes. "You're getting soft, Dante. I don't like soft." For 3 days, Dante had lived in terror, certain that Vincent would order Isabella's execution. He'd barely slept, barely eaten. Then Vincent had called him in. "I've decided to let her live, but she leaves Chicago, tonight, and you never contact her again. If I find out you've so much as sent her a text message, she dies. Understand?" Dante had understood. Isabella had fled to San Francisco. Dante had never spoken to her again, but he followed her on social media through fake accounts, watched as she built a new life, met someone else, got married, had a child, all the things they should have had together. And Dante blamed Vincent for all of it. The hatred grew slowly, like cancer. At first, Dante told himself it was just resentment, just anger at having lost the woman he loved. But over months and years, it metastasized into something darker. Vincent had stolen his future, his happiness, his chance at redemption. Dante began to notice things he'd ignored before. The way Vincent treated people as disposable, the casual cruelty, the complete absence of human feeling. Vincent wasn't just a criminal, he was a monster wearing human skin. Dante started planning. He recruited carefully. He didn't approach the old-timers who'd been with Vincent for decades. He focused on the younger soldiers, the ambitious ones, the ones who felt Vincent took too much of the profits, the ones who chafed under his absolute control. 5 men. That's all he needed. 5 men willing to commit the ultimate betrayal. The plan was elegant in its simplicity. They would poison Vincent and his closest loyalists during a celebration. With Vincent dead and his key supporters eliminated, Dante could step in, claim the Moretti family had launched an assassination, and consolidate power in the chaos. But Dante added one more element, a personal touch. Vincent wouldn't just die, he would suffer first. The celebration was for a major deal. Vincent had just closed a partnership with the Sinaloa cartel that would bring in $40 million over the next year. It was the biggest deal of Vincent's career. The party was held at Vincent's private club, an exclusive establishment in the Gold Coast, where politicians, judges, and criminals mingled freely. Dante had arranged everything personally: the catering, the drinks, the security. Vincent arrived at 8 p.m., flanked by his 8-man security detail. His inner circle was already there, his underboss, his capos, his most trusted soldiers. 30 men total. 30 men who would all die tonight. Well, 29. Dante had made sure to excuse himself from drinking. The poisoning happened at 9:15 p.m. during Vincent's toast. Dante had laced the Macallan 25, Vincent's favorite scotch, with a custom-designed toxin. Not fast-acting. That would have been suspicious. This poison took 20 minutes to work, plenty of time for everyone to have multiple drinks, for the celebration to be in full swing. The first man dropped at 9:35 p.m., then another, then 3 more in rapid succession. Vincent tried to stand, to shout orders, but his legs buckled. He grabbed the edge of the bar for support, and saw Dante watching him with cold satisfaction. "You." Vincent's voice was thick, the room was spinning. "You did this." Dante walked over slowly, crouched down to look Vincent in the eyes. "I did. I've been planning this for 3 years, ever since you destroyed my life." "Dante, why?" "Because you're a monster, Vincent. You destroy everything you touch. You took the woman I loved. You've turned me into something I hate. And now it's time for you to pay." Vincent's vision was fading. "Just kill me. Get it over with." Dante smiled. It was the cruelest expression Vincent had ever seen. "Oh, I'm not going to kill you. Not quickly. Not mercifully. You're going to suffer. You're going to know fear. You're going to understand what it feels like to be helpless and alone." Those were the last words Vincent heard before darkness claimed him. Vincent's return to consciousness was gradual and agonizing. His head felt like it was being crushed in a vice. His mouth was dry as sand. Every muscle ached. But worse than the physical pain was the realization of where he was. Darkness. Complete, absolute darkness. Not the darkness of a room where light seeps under a door or through curtains, This was the darkness of the void, of nothingness, of the grave. He tried to move and felt resistance. His arms were pressed against his sides. When he tried to lift his hands, they immediately hit something solid, mere inches above his chest. Wood. The panic hit him like a tsunami. He was in a box, a coffin, Vincent screamed. The sound was deafening in the enclosed space, echoing off the wooden walls and coming back to assault his own ears. He screamed until his throat was raw, until his voice cracked and broke, until only a hoarse whisper emerged. Then he started pounding on the lid, his fists hammered against unyielding wood. He pushed with all his strength, legs bracing against the bottom of the coffin, shoulders pressed against the lid. Nothing moved. That's when he heard it, or rather, felt it. A peculiar deadness to the sound. His pounding wasn't echoing into open air. It was being absorbed by earth. The realization crushed him more effectively than the coffin ever could. He wasn't just in a box. He was buried, underground, beneath tons of earth that pressed down with inexorable weight. "Help," he screamed. "Somebody help me." His voice went nowhere. Sound doesn't travel well through 6 feet of packed earth. "Dante, you son of a bitch, let me out, let me out." No response. Just the terrible, suffocating silence of the grave. Vincent's breathing became rapid, shallow, hyperventilation. He was using up his oxygen too quickly. He forced himself to slow down, to take measured breaths, but panic kept surging up. How much air did he have? Hours? Days? He had no idea. The coffin wasn't airtight. He could feel the slightest circulation, probably from imperfections in the construction, but it was close enough. Eventually, the oxygen would run out. Eventually, his own carbon dioxide would poison him. He was going to suffocate. Slowly, painfully, alone in the dark. Vincent began to laugh. Hysterical, broken laughter that turned into sobs. This is what he deserved. This is what he'd earned with 25 years of cruelty and violence. Dante had chosen the perfect punishment. Time became meaningless in the darkness. Vincent tried to count seconds to track time, but he kept losing count, kept forgetting where he was, kept drifting in and out of consciousness. He explored his prison systematically, running his hands along every inch he could reach. The coffin was about 7 feet long, 2 feet wide, and perhaps 2 feet deep. Barely enough room to breathe. Custom made for him, clearly. Dante had planned every detail. Vincent's fingers found something in the corner, paper, a note. In the absolute darkness, he couldn't read it. But he clutched it anyway, held it against his chest like a talisman. A connection to the world above. Proof that this was real, that he wasn't already dead and trapped in some hellish afterlife. His mind began to play tricks on him. He thought he heard voices, footsteps above the coffin, someone digging. "I'm here," he would shout. "I'm down here." But the sounds were hallucinations, products of oxygen, deprivation, and sheer desperation. Vincent thought about his life, about all the people he'd hurt, the families he'd destroyed, the lives he'd snuffed out without a second thought. Anthony Williams, the first man he'd killed. Marcus had begged for his daughter, had told Vincent she was turning 6 next week. Vincent had never even asked her name. How many daughters had grown up without fathers because of him? How many sons? How many wives had buried husbands? How many mothers had outlived their children? The number was staggering. Over 25 years, Vincent estimated he'd ordered or directly carried out at least 70 murders. 70 families shattered. And that wasn't counting the people who died in the gang wars, the drug deals gone bad, the turf disputes. If you counted those deaths he'd caused indirectly, the number might be in the hundreds. "I'm sorry," Vincent whispered to the darkness. "I'm so sorry." But sorry meant nothing. Sorry didn't bring back the dead. Sorry didn't undo the pain. Sorry was just a word. On what Vincent estimated was the second day, though it could have been the first night or the third day, time had lost all meaning. The hallucinations became vivid. The darkness seemed to lighten slightly, taking on a gray quality. And in that gray void, shapes began to form. People, dozens of them, standing around the coffin, looking down at him through the wood and earth as if both were transparent. Vincent recognized faces. Anthony Williams was there, holding the hand of a little girl, his daughter. She would be in her 30s now, if she was even still alive. There was Michael Petrocelli, a loan shark Vincent had eliminated in 2010. Michael's wife stood beside him. Vincent remembered ordering her killed too. Couldn't leave witnesses. Giuseppe Joey Matches Marchetti, a soldier who'd gotten cold feet before a hit and tried to back out. Vincent had made an example of him. The Delgado brothers Ramon and Carlos, rivals who dared to sell drugs in Vincent's territory. Vincent had burned them alive in their own warehouse. On and on, a crowd of ghosts, all staring at him with dead eyes. "We've been waiting for you," Anthony said. His voice came from everywhere and nowhere. "We've been waiting a long time, Vincent." "You're not real," Vincent said. "Your hallucinations, lack of oxygen, my brain dying." "Does it matter?" asked Michael Petrocelli. "Real or not, we're here, just like you're there, buried alive, just like you buried us." "I didn't bury you, I killed you, quick, relatively painless." Joey Matches laughed, a hollow, terrible sound. "You think a bullet to the head is painless? You ever been shot, Vincent? In your long career of violence, did anyone ever put a bullet in you?" Vincent was silent. No, he'd been stabbed once, slashed with a knife another time, but never shot. "It hurts," Joey said. "It hurts in ways you can't imagine. And then there's the terror. The moment when you know you're about to die. The desperate hope that maybe you'll survive. And then nothing, just nothing forever." "What do you want from me?" Vincent asked. "I can't change what I did. I can't bring you back." "We don't want anything," Anthony said. "We're just here to welcome you, to show you what's waiting, because you're going to die in this box, Vincent. And when you do, you're going to join us, forever." The little girl, Anthony's daughter, stepped closer. She couldn't have been more than 6 in Vincent's memory, but here she was, maybe 30. She looked at him with infinite sadness. "My father was a good man," she said. "He made a mistake, got desperate, borrowed money he couldn't pay back, but he was good. He coached my soccer team. He taught me to ride a bike. He loved me." Tears streamed down her face. "You took him from me. I grew up without a father. Do you know what that does to a child? The hole it leaves?" Vincent couldn't speak. His own tears were flowing freely now. "I forgive you," the woman said. "But forgiveness doesn't erase consequences. You still have to face what you've done." The ghosts began to fade, melting back into the darkness. But their presence remained. Vincent could feel them, pressing in from all sides. He was not alone in his tomb. He would never be alone again. "Wait, are you still with me? I need to stop for just a moment. I can see you there, reading this, your heart pounding, feeling that claustrophobic darkness pressing in. This is intense. This is heavy. And we're only just beginning. If you're invested in this story, if you need to know whether Vincent survives, whether Pip actually finds him, whether redemption is possible for a man who's committed such evil, then I need you to do something for me right now. Hit that subscribe button, smash the like button, because this story gets more intense, more emotional, more devastating, and ultimately more hopeful than you can possibly imagine. And I don't want you to miss a single word of what happens next. Now, let's return to Vincent's nightmare. Because 3 feet above him, something miraculous is about to begin. While Vincent suffered in his underground prison, above ground, the aftermath of Dante's betrayal was unfolding in blood and chaos. The mansion in Lake Forest had been a war zone. Dante's men had arrived just after midnight, heavily armed and ruthless. Vincent's security team, 8 highly trained former military personnel, had fought back, but they'd been overwhelmed by superior numbers and the element of surprise. The firefight had lasted 17 minutes. When it was over, all 8 security personnel were dead. So was Maria Gonzalez, Vincent's housekeeper, who'd worked for him for 12 years. Maria's death was unnecessary. She was no threat. She'd been hiding in the pantry, clutching her rosary, praying. One of Dante's men had found her and shot her simply because he could. With her last strength, Maria had crawled to a closet in the hallway. She'd opened the door, and a small Yorkshire Terrier had darted inside, shaking with terror. "Run," Maria had whispered to the dog, using her body to block the closet door. "Run, pequeño." She'd died there, slumped against the closet, buying Pip precious minutes to hide. Dante's men had ransacked the mansion for 2 hours. They'd found Vincent's safes. He had 3. One in his study, one in his bedroom, one hidden behind a painting in the library. Combined, they held almost $3 million in cash, diamonds, and Krugerrands. They'd also found documents, evidence of Vincent's dealings, names of corrupt politicians, judges, and cops on the payroll. This information was worth more than any amount of cash. With it, Dante could control the same networks Vincent had built. Finally, they'd set fire to the guest house, a smaller building on the property that housed the gym and Maria's quarters. They wanted to destroy any remaining evidence, create the impression of a random attack by a rival organization. The flames lit up the night sky. Neighbors called 911. Fire trucks and police arrived within 15 minutes. But by then, Dante's men were gone. And so was Vincent, his blood-soaked body dragged from the main house and thrown into the trunk of an SUV. The police found the carnage. 8 dead security personnel. Maria's body in the hallway still clutching her rosary. Blood everywhere. Shell casings. Signs of a military-style assault. They found Vincent's blood in the main hallway, a lot of it. But no Vincent. The FBI was called in. This wasn't just a home invasion. This was an attack on one of Chicago's most powerful organized crime figures. It had implications for the entire criminal underworld. Special Agent Jennifer Morrison arrived at dawn. She'd been investigating Vincent for 6 years, building a case slowly and methodically. She'd been close to indicting him on racketeering charges. Now he was missing, possibly dead, and her case was in ruins. She walked through the mansion, documenting everything. In the hallway, she found Maria's body, the rosary, the closet door slightly ajar. Something made her open the closet wider. Inside, shaking in the corner, was a tiny dog. "Well, hello there," Jennifer said softly. She held out her hand. The dog cowered, but didn't run. Jennifer carefully picked up the Yorkshire Terrier. He weighed almost nothing. His collar had a tag. Pip. If found, return to Vincent Caruso. "You're Vincent's dog?" Jennifer said. "I didn't even know he had a dog." She brought Pip outside, wrapped in her jacket. An animal control officer was on scene, standard procedure when animals were found at crime scenes. "I'll take him," the officer said, reaching for Pip. But the dog suddenly started struggling, yapping frantically. His eyes were fixed on something beyond the property line. "What's wrong with him?" the officer asked. Jennifer followed the dog's gaze. There was nothing there. Just the street. The neighboring properties. Trees. "He's traumatized," she said. "Probably witnessed the whole thing, poor baby." But Pip continued to struggle, continued to yap, trying desperately to escape toward something he could sense that the humans couldn't. Vincent. Finally, Pip wriggled free from Jennifer's arms and ran. He was through the police tape and down the street before anyone could react. "Catch that dog," someone shouted. 2 officers gave chase, but Pip was faster and more agile. He darted through yards, under fences, around buildings. And he was following something. A scent so faint that no human could detect it. The scent of blood, Vincent's blood that had transferred from the trunk of the SUV to the road as Dante's men drove away. The officers lost him within 5 minutes. They returned to the crime scene and reported the dog had escaped. "He'll show up," one officer said. "Dogs always come back when they're hungry." He was wrong. Pip would never come back. Because Pip had a mission now. Find Vincent. Pip's journey was an odyssey that animal behaviorists still study. The Yorkshire Terrier weighed 3 pounds. He was bred to be a lapdog, a companion. His ancestors had been ratters in Victorian England. But Pip had never been outside without a leash, had never hunted anything more challenging than his food bowl. Yet somehow, this tiny dog tracked Vincent across 23 miles of urban and suburban landscape. The scent trail was microscopic. A few molecules of blood transferred from the SUV's trunk to the asphalt. Bits of Vincent's scent that had rubbed off on the vehicle's exterior. Trace elements that dispersed and degraded with every passing hour. But dogs have up to 300 million olfactory receptors in their noses, compared to about 6 million in humans. They can detect scents at concentrations nearly 100 million times lower than humans can perceive. Pip followed Vincent's scent like other dogs might follow a trail of bacon. The journey took him through neighborhoods where dogs 3 times his size would have been attacked. Through busy streets where he darted between cars, missing death by inches a dozen times. Through industrial areas where poisoned rats and toxic chemicals posed constant danger. He traveled at night mostly. His small size was an advantage in darkness. He could slip through gaps in fences, hide in shadows, avoid detection. But the journey wasn't without cost. On the second night, a raccoon cornered Pip in an alley. The raccoon was hunting for food and saw the small dog as an easy meal. Pip fought back with a ferocity that his breeding didn't suggest: snarling, snapping, refusing to run. The raccoon eventually retreated, but not before raking its claws across Pip's shoulder. Blood matted his fur. The wound burned, but Pip didn't stop. He couldn't stop. Vincent needed him. How Pip knew this, how a dog could understand that his human was in mortal danger miles away, is a mystery. Some scientists attribute it to scent alone. Others suggest dogs have cognitive abilities. We're only beginning to understand a theory of mind that allows them to understand distress, danger, and need. Or maybe it was simpler than that. Maybe it was love. On the third day of travel, 36 hours after leaving Vincent's mansion, Pip reached the outskirts of Gary, Indiana. The scent trail led to an abandoned industrial complex. Rusted buildings, broken windows, weeds growing through cracked pavement. The kind of place where urban explorers came to take photographs, and drug addicts came to get high and die. The scent led Pip to an empty lot overgrown with tall grass. And there, in the middle of the lot, the grass had been disturbed, freshly turned earth. Pip sniffed frantically. The scent was here, strong, recent. Vincent was here, below. Pip began to dig. For a 3-pound dog to dig through 6 feet of earth is mathematically absurd. It's the equivalent of a human digging through hundreds of feet of rock using only their fingernails. But Pip dug anyway. His small paws scraped at the dirt, throwing up tiny amounts with each frantic movement. His nails, delicate things meant for walking on carpets and hardwood floors, began to crack and split. He dug for an hour, creating a depression perhaps 6 inches deep. Then he collapsed from exhaustion, panting heavily, his tiny body shaking. He rested for 5 minutes. Then he started digging again. The earth here was hard-packed clay mixed with construction debris, bits of concrete, broken glass, fragments of metal. It was nearly impossible to dig through, even for a larger dog with stronger paws. But Pip persisted. 6 inches became a foot became 18 inches. His paws began to bleed. The pads split open. His nails tore away from the quick, leaving raw, exposed flesh that burned with every scrape against the earth. Pip whimpered with pain. But he didn't stop digging. 2 feet, 3 feet. The sun set. Pip dug through the night, his white fur now completely brown with dirt and blood. His muscles screamed. His paws were destroyed. Each movement sent agony shooting up his legs. But he could smell Vincent more clearly now. Below him, close, so close. 4 feet, 5 feet. Pip's vision started to blur from blood loss and exhaustion. He collapsed again, too weak to stand. He lay there in the hole he'd created, shaking, crying, knowing he wasn't strong enough. But then he thought of Vincent. Of the man who sat in his study late at night, the man whose feet Pip would sleep on, the man who'd never petted him, never said kind words, but whose presence had been the center of Pip's entire universe. Vincent needed him. Pip stood up, his legs nearly buckled. He whimpered from pain, but he started digging again. 5.5 feet. 6 feet. And then his paw hit something different. Not earth, not rock. Wood. Pip started barking. Frantic, desperate barking. He scratched at the wood with his destroyed paws, blood mixing with dirt. And from below, impossibly faint, he heard something. A voice. Vincent's voice. Sarah and Marcus Chen were urban explorers with a YouTube channel called Forgotten Midwest. They documented abandoned buildings, ghost towns, and industrial ruins across Indiana, Illinois, and Michigan. They'd driven to the Gary Industrial Complex on a Saturday afternoon to photograph the old steel mill buildings. Their channel had 50,000 subscribers, and the algorithm gods demanded constant content. Sarah was setting up her camera for a shot of a particularly photogenic rusted water tower when she heard something. "Marcus, do you hear that?" Her husband paused, listening. "Sounds like a dog?" They followed the sound to the empty lot. What they saw stopped them cold. A hole, at least 6 feet deep, and at the bottom, a tiny, blood-covered dog digging frantically at what appeared to be wood. "Oh my God," Sarah breathed. "Marcus, there's something down there." Marcus scrambled down into the hole, careful not to step on the dog. He brushed away some dirt from the wood and realized what he was looking at. A coffin. "Sarah, call 911 right now, there's a coffin buried here." "What?" "Marcus, it's probably just an old..." "It's fresh dirt. This wasn't buried years ago. This is recent. Call 911. Sarah's hands shook as she dialed. Meanwhile, Marcus pressed his ear against the coffin lid. "Hello? Is anyone in there? Can you hear me?" Nothing. Just the dog barking. Marcus tried again. "If you can hear me, make a sound. Any sound." From inside the coffin, a voice so faint it was barely audible. "Help." Marcus's blood ran cold. "There's someone alive in there. Sarah, tell them there's someone alive." He started digging with his hands, trying to clear dirt from around the edges of the coffin. The dog joined him, both human and canine working desperately. "Hang on," Marcus shouted. "We're getting you out, just hang on." The response from inside was weaker this time. "Pip." Marcus looked at the bloody, exhausted dog. "Is that your name, Pip?" The dog barked once, then went back to digging. Tears streamed down Marcus's face as he dug. Who buries someone alive? What kind of monster does that? It took the emergency services 11 minutes to arrive, 11 minutes that felt like hours. The Gary Fire Department came with shovels, equipment, and professional efficiency. They had Vincent out in 20 minutes. Vincent's first clear memory after being rescued was light. Not just light, a supernova of brilliance that felt like it was burning his eyes out of his skull. He tried to turn away, to escape back into the comfortable darkness, but hands held him still. "Easy, Mr. Caruso. You're safe. You're in Northwestern Memorial Hospital. Try to stay still." Voices. Multiple voices. Beeping machines. The smell of antiseptic. Vincent tried to speak, but his throat was a wasteland of pain. Only a croak emerged. "Don't try to talk. Your throat is severely damaged from screaming and dehydration. We have you on IV fluids. You've been unconscious for 18 hours. 18 hours. Plus the 73 hours in the coffin." Vincent had been gone from the world for nearly 4 days. "The dog," Vincent managed to rasp. Each word felt like swallowing glass. The nurse, a kind-faced woman in her 50s, smiled. "The Yorkshire Terrier? He's okay. He's in intensive care in the veterinary wing. Dr. Patterson is taking care of him personally. I need to see him." "Mr. Caruso, you can't even sit up right now. You need to rest. Your body went through—" But Vincent was already trying to move, trying to sit up despite the pain that screamed through every muscle. The nurse called for help, and a doctor appeared. Dr. James Morrison, head of emergency medicine. "Mr. Caruso, you need to calm down. Your body is in severe distress. You were buried alive for 73 hours. You have dehydration, muscle atrophy from being confined in one position, possible brain damage from oxygen deprivation, and psychological trauma that we can't even begin to—" "I don't care," Vincent rasped. "I need to see the dog." Dr. Morrison and the nurse exchanged glances. Finally, the doctor sighed. "Give me an hour, I'll arrange something." They wheeled Vincent to the veterinary wing on the 3rd floor, a specialized facility that Northwestern maintained for therapy, animals, and service dogs. Pip was in a private room, lying on a bed that was absurdly large for his tiny frame. His paws were wrapped in white bandages. An IV line ran into his small leg. His eyes were closed. Vincent's heart nearly stopped. "Is he—" "He's alive," Dr. Patterson said. She was a veterinarian who specialized in emergency trauma. "But barely. Mr. Caruso, I've been a veterinarian for 28 years. I have never seen injuries like this. His paw pads are completely destroyed. His nails were torn out. He's lost about 20% of his body weight from exhaustion and lack of food. He dug until he literally couldn't dig anymore." She paused, her voice thick with emotion. "The only reason he's alive is because the hikers found you when they did. Another 12 hours and his body would have shut down completely." The nurse carefully lifted Pip and placed him on Vincent's chest as he lay on the gurney. The moment the dog felt Vincent's heartbeat, his eyes opened. His tail gave the faintest wag. Vincent wrapped his arms around the tiny creature and began to sob. Great, heaving sobs that shook his entire body. 25 years of suppressed emotion, 25 years of carefully maintained coldness, shattered in an instant. "I'm sorry," Vincent whispered into Pip's fur. "I'm so sorry. I never deserved you. I never showed you love. But you saved me anyway. Why? Why did you do it?" Pip just licked his hand, a slow, gentle lick with his tiny pink tongue. Dr. Patterson turned away, wiping her own eyes. The nurses were crying. Even Dr. Morrison, who'd seen every form of human suffering in his 30 years of medicine, had to excuse himself. "I'm going to make it right," Vincent promised Pip. "Whatever time I have left, I'm going to be the person you thought I was. I swear it." While Vincent recovered, The FBI was piecing together what had happened. Special Agent Jennifer Morrison had been assigned to lead the investigation. She'd been the one who'd seen Pip escape from the crime scene, and she'd been kicking herself ever since for not holding on to the dog tighter. Now, knowing that the dog had led rescuers to Vincent, she understood. Pip had known where Vincent was. Somehow, impossibly, the dog had known. The FBI raided the industrial site where Vincent had been buried. They found evidence: tire tracks, footprints, cigarette butts, DNA evidence that would eventually link back to Dante's men. They also found something else, a note, sealed in plastic, buried with Vincent. The note that Vincent had clutched in the darkness but couldn't read. Agent Morrison read it aloud to her team. Vincent, by the time you read this, if you ever read this, which I doubt you'll understand what it feels like to lose everything, to have your future stolen, to suffer in darkness with no hope of escape. You took the woman I loved. You destroyed my chance at happiness. You turned me into a monster just like you. So now you get to die like the rat you are, buried and forgotten. Maybe in 100 years someone will dig you up, but by then you'll be nothing but bones. I win, you lose. Dante. The rage Vincent felt when this note was read to him was unlike anything he'd experienced. Not the cold, calculated anger he'd used to justify murders in his criminal career. This was hot, primal, consuming rage. Dante had done this not for power, not for money, but for revenge. Personal, petty revenge. We're going to find him, Agent Morrison told Vincent. We have evidence now. He's going to prison for attempted murder, conspiracy, and whatever else we can throw at him. Vincent looked at her with eyes that were changing, becoming less cold, more human. I want to make a deal. Morrison blinked. What kind of deal? I'll testify. Against Dante. Against everyone. The entire organization. Names, dates, evidence. Everything you need to dismantle the whole operation. But I have 3 conditions. I'm listening. 1. Pip stays with me. No matter where I go, he comes too. He's earned that. 2. I plead guilty to everything I've done. Every crime. I don't want a reduced sentence. I want to pay for what I am. 3. I serve my time in a facility that has a dog training program. I want to spend whatever years I have left doing something good. Morrison stared at him. Mr. Caruso, you're talking about multiple life sentences. You could negotiate for witness protection, a new identity, freedom. I don't want freedom I don't deserve. I want to pay my debts. Why? 3 days ago you were the most ruthless crime boss in Chicago. What changed? Vincent looked down at Pip, who was sleeping on his lap despite hospital regulations. I spent 3 days in hell, and I met every ghost I created. I can't bring them back. I can't undo the pain, but I can stop adding to it, and I can just try to be worthy of the creature who loved me when no one else did. Morrison was silent for a long moment. Then she nodded. I'll talk to the prosecutor. No promises, but I'll talk to them. The trial of Vincent Caruso became a media sensation. The man who'd been buried alive, rescued by his loyal dog, now testifying against his former empire. The footage of Vincent being pulled from the ground, clutching Pip, had gone viral worldwide. It had been viewed over 500 million times. Pip had become an international celebrity, the miracle dog. People magazine had done a cover story. Good Morning America wanted interviews. Hollywood studios were fighting over film rights. But Vincent refused it all. He gave one interview, a written statement distributed to the press. For 25 years, I was a monster. I hurt people. I killed people. I destroyed families and communities in the pursuit of money and power. I justified it by telling myself it was business, that it was necessary, that I was just doing what needed to be done to survive and thrive in a ruthless world. I was lying to myself. 3 days buried alive gave me clarity I wish I'd had decades ago. The dog who saved my life, Pip, showed me what loyalty, love, and goodness look like. He had every reason to abandon me. I never showed him affection, never gave him the care he deserved. But he loved me anyway. He literally dug through 6 feet of earth with his bare paws to save me. I don't deserve that kind of love. But I'm going to spend the rest of my life trying to. I'm pleading guilty to every charge against me. I'm testifying against my former organization, not to reduce my sentence, but because it's the right thing to do. These are men who hurt people, who poison communities, who destroy lives for profit. They need to be stopped. To the families of the people I killed, I know my apology means nothing. I know I can't undo the harm I caused, but I am truly, deeply sorry. I wish I could bring your loved ones back. Since I can't, all I can offer is my full cooperation in making sure no other families suffer the way you have. To Dante Russo, you tried to teach me what suffering feels like. You succeeded, but you also gave me something unexpected, a chance at redemption. I don't know if I can be redeemed, but I'm going to try. And to Pip, thank you for loving a monster. Thank you for not giving up on me when you should have. I promise to be worthy of you. The courtroom was packed for every day of the trial. Vincent testified for 18 days straight, providing details about murders, corruption, money laundering, drug trafficking, and human trafficking. His testimony led to 127 indictments. Judges, politicians, police officers, crime bosses, money launderers. The entire Chicago underworld was exposed. Dante Russo was arrested trying to flee to Mexico. When they brought him into court, he and Vincent locked eyes. Dante expected to see hatred, revenge, the old Vincent, cold and calculating. Instead, he saw something that terrified him more: pity. I forgive you, Vincent said when he took the stand to testify against Dante. What you did to me was evil, but I understand why you did it. I destroyed your life. I took the woman you loved. I made you into someone you hated, so I forgive you. He paused. But forgiveness doesn't mean there aren't consequences. You buried me alive. You killed 8 security personnel and my housekeeper. You're going to prison for the rest of your life, and unlike me, you won't have a dog waiting to save you. Dante was convicted on 127 counts, including attempted murder, first-degree murder, conspiracy, racketeering, and more. He received 17 consecutive life sentences. He would die in prison. Vincent's sentencing hearing was emotional in ways that courtrooms rarely are. Judge Patricia Hernandez had presided over hundreds of criminal cases in her 23 years on the bench. She'd seen every type of criminal: the remorseful, the defiant, the broken, the hardened. She'd never seen anyone like Vincent Caruso. Mr. Caruso, she began, I've read your testimony. I've read your statement. I've reviewed your complete criminal history, and I'm struggling to understand how to sentence you. She removed her glasses, a gesture that showed just how unusual this moment was. On one hand, you're responsible for at least 70 direct murders and countless indirect deaths. You ran a criminal empire that destroyed communities, fueled addiction, and corrupted our institutions. By any standard of justice, you deserve the harshest sentence possible. Vincent nodded. He'd expected nothing less. On the other hand, Judge Hernandez continued, your cooperation has led to the dismantling of the largest criminal organization in Chicago's history. Your testimony has put corrupt judges, politicians, and cops in prison. You've shown genuine remorse, not the fake remorse that defendants sometimes show to reduce their sentences, but real, painful acknowledgement of the harm you caused. She paused, looking down at notes she'd written. And then there's the dog. A murmur went through the courtroom. Pip was in the front row, held by a victim advocate, his paws still bandaged but healing. That dog loved you unconditionally. He didn't care about your crimes. He didn't judge you. He just loved you. And when you were in mortal danger, he did the impossible to save you. I've read the veterinary reports. Dr. Patterson said it was medically miraculous that Pip survived. He should have died from blood loss, exhaustion, or exposure. But he kept digging until he found you. Judge Hernandez's voice cracked slightly. That dog saw something in you worth saving. And I have to believe, I choose to believe that he was right. She put her glasses back on. Mr. Caruso, I'm sentencing you to 4 consecutive life sentences. You will be eligible for parole in 60 years, when you're 95 years old. You will likely die in prison. Vincent accepted this with a nod. However, the judge continued, I'm making the following recommendations to the Department of Corrections. 1. That you be placed in a medium security facility rather than maximum, given your cooperation and the low risk you pose to other inmates. 2. That you be allowed to keep Pip with you. 3. That you be enrolled in a service dog training program where you can use your remaining years to train dogs to help people with disabilities. She looked directly at Vincent. Don't thank me, Mr. Caruso. Thank that little dog in the front row. Because without him, you'd be dead, and we wouldn't be having this conversation. He saved your life. Now spend the rest of yours making sure it was worth saving. The medium security correctional facility in Terre Haute, Indiana, wasn't what Vincent expected. He'd expected concrete and steel, violence and despair, the kind of hell depicted in movies. Instead, he found something more subtle monotony, mixed with moments of unexpected humanity. His cell was small, 8 feet by 10 feet, with a cot, a toilet, a sink, and a small desk. But it also had Pip's bed in the corner. A soft, cushioned bed that the prison had allowed as part of the special arrangement. Pip had his own ID badge, service animal in training. He went everywhere with Vincent, to meals, to work assignments, to the yard. The other inmates were initially skeptical. A mob boss with a 3-pound dog? It seemed like a joke, a sign of weakness. Then word spread about what Pip had done. About the 6 feet of earth, the destroyed paws, the 73 hours of digging. Respect came quickly after that. That's a real one right there. An inmate named Marcus told Vincent during their first breakfast together. Marcus was serving 20 years for armed robbery. My dog barely comes when I call his name. Yours dug you out of a grave. Vincent smiled sadly. I didn't deserve it, but I'm grateful. You train dogs now, right? Service dogs? I'm learning. The program here trains dogs to help veterans with PTSD, kids with autism, people with mobility issues. I work with a trainer named Sarah. She's teaching me everything. Marcus nodded thoughtfully. You think you could train my dog? When I get out, I mean. I want him to be better behaved. If I'm still alive when you get out, absolutely. It became a pattern. Inmates would approach Vincent, asking about dogs, about training, about Pip. Many of these men had pets they'd left behind, families they'd abandoned. Vincent's transformation from cold-blooded killer to dog trainer fascinated them. But not everyone was accepting. 3 months into his sentence, Vincent was approached in the yard by a group of 4 inmates. Their leader was a man named Carlos Mendez, a high-ranking member of the Latin Kings, who'd lost 3 brothers to violence orchestrated by Vincent's organization. Caruso, Carlos said, his voice dripping with menace. We need to talk. Vincent stood his ground. Pip was back in the cell. Vincent never brought him out when there might be trouble. You killed my brothers, Miguel, Juan, and Roberto. You remember them? Vincent closed his eyes, searching his memory. The Mendez brothers, 2014. They were dealing in territory we controlled. I gave the order. I'm sorry. Carlos laughed a harsh, bitter sound. You're sorry? That's supposed to make it okay? No, nothing makes it okay, but it's all I can offer. I can't bring them back. So I'm supposed to just let it go. Just forgive you because you found God, or a dog, or whatever redemption bullshit you're selling. Vincent met Carlos's eyes. No, you don't have to forgive me. You have every right to hate me. If you want to kill me, I won't fight back. I deserve it. The yard went silent. Everyone was watching. Carlos pulled out a shank, a crude knife made from a sharpened piece of metal. You're serious? You won't fight back? I'm serious. I've done enough violence in my life. I won't do more. If my death brings you peace, then do it. Carlos raised the shank. His hand was shaking. Tears streamed down his face. My brothers were good people, he said. They made mistakes, got involved with the wrong crowd. But they were good. They had families. Miguel had 3 kids. Juan was going to get married. Roberto was only 19 years old. I know, Vincent said quietly. I read about them after you told me their names. I looked up their obituaries. I saw their pictures. I saw what they left behind. Then you know what you took from us. I do, and I'm sorry. It doesn't fix anything, but I'm sorry. Carlos stood there, shank raised, for what felt like an eternity. Then slowly, he lowered it. I can't do it, he said, his voice breaking. I want to. God knows I want to. But killing you won't bring them back. It'll just make me like you, and I'm not like you. He threw the shank on the ground and walked away, shoulders shaking with sobs. Vincent stood there, hardly believing he was still alive. A guard approached they'd been watching, ready to intervene, but Vincent had requested they let it play out. You're either the bravest man I've ever seen or the dumbest, the guard said. Neither, Vincent replied. Just a man trying to make up for what he's done. Vincent threw himself into the service dog training program with an intensity that surprised even the trainers. Sarah Mitchell had been running the program for 8 years. She'd trained over 200 dogs, placing them with veterans, children, and disabled individuals across the country. She was skeptical when she first met Vincent. You're a mob boss, she said bluntly during their first meeting. You've killed people. Why should I trust you with these dogs? Vincent didn't flinch. You shouldn't. I don't trust myself. But these dogs, they're going to help people. They're going to make lives better. And I want to be part of that. Not because it'll reduce my sentence, because it won't. Not because it makes me look good. But because I owe a debt I can never repay. And this is the only way I know to start making payments. Sarah studied him for a long moment. You know what these dogs do? I've read about the program. They help veterans with PTSD manage anxiety attacks. They help autistic children regulate emotions. They assist people with mobility issues. They save lives, like Pip saved yours. Exactly like that. Sarah had nodded slowly. Okay, we'll try. But if you screw this up, if you hurt a single dog, I'll personally make sure you're removed from the program and sent to maximum security. Clear? Crystal clear. Vincent's first dog was a golden retriever puppy named Luna. She was 8 weeks old, full of energy, and completely untrained. She's going to be placed with a veteran who has severe PTSD, Sarah explained. Her job will be to detect anxiety attacks before they happen and provide comfort during flashbacks. It takes about 2 years to fully train a PTSD service dog. Vincent spent 6 hours a day with Luna, teaching basic commands, socialization, gradually introducing more complex tasks. But he also did something Sarah hadn't expected. He talked to Luna about his crimes. I killed a lot of people, he told the puppy, as she sat at his feet, looking up at him with trusting brown eyes. I destroyed families. I was a monster. But you're going to help someone. You're going to make up for some of the damage people like me caused. Sarah overheard one of these sessions. She found herself crying. Why do you talk to her like that? She asked. Vincent looked up, embarrassed. I don't know. It helps me remember why I'm doing this. And maybe if I say it enough times, I'll believe I can actually change. Over the months, Vincent proved to be a natural trainer. He had patience that surprised everyone. When Luna struggled with a command, Vincent never got frustrated. He'd break it down, try different approaches, celebrate small victories. You're good at this, Sarah told him after 6 months. Really good. You have a gift. Vincent shook his head. I learned from Pip. He taught me what unconditional love looks like, what persistence looks like, what loyalty looks like. I'm just passing that on. 1 year into his sentence, Vincent started receiving letters. The first was from a woman named Patricia Williams. Vincent recognized the name immediately. She was the daughter of Anthony Williams, the first man Vincent had killed. His hands shook as he opened the envelope. Mr. Caruso. My name is Patricia Williams. You murdered my father 28 years ago. I was 6 years old. He'd borrowed money he couldn't repay, and you shot him in an alley. I've hated you for most of my life. I've fantasized about killing you. I've wished every terrible thing imaginable upon you. Then I saw the news story. About you being buried alive. About your dog saving you. About your testimony and your guilty pleas. I don't know how to feel anymore. Part of me is glad you suffered. Part of me thinks you deserve worse. But part of me, a part I don't fully understand, feels something else. Not forgiveness. I'm not there yet, and maybe I never will be. But I see you trying to change. I see you training dogs to help people. I see you accepting responsibility. My father was a good man who made a desperate mistake. You took him from me. But I don't want to spend the rest of my life consumed by hatred. So I'm writing to tell you. I'm trying to let go. Not for you, for me. I hope you succeed in changing. I hope the rest of your life, however long you have, makes some small dent in the mountain of harm you caused. Patricia Williams. Vincent read the letter 3 times, tears streaming down his face. Then he wrote back, Miss Williams, thank you for writing. I don't deserve your letter, but I'm grateful for it. I remember your father. I've thought about him countless times over the years. In my arrogance, I told myself his death was justified, necessary, just business. I was lying to myself. Your father was a man with a family, with hopes, with a daughter who needed him. And I took him away because I had the power to do so and no moral compass to stop me. I can't bring him back. I can't give you your father, but I want you to know that I think about him every day. I think about you, growing up without him. I think about all the moments he missed, your graduations, your wedding if you're married, grandchildren if you have them. I stole all of that from you. I'm training a service dog named Luna right now. She's going to help a veteran with PTSD. I named her after your father's middle name. I looked it up in his obituary. It's the only way I know to honor his memory. I know it's not enough. It will never be enough. But it's all I can do. I'm sorry. I'm so profoundly sorry. Vincent Caruso. More letters came. Some were angry, filled with rage and pain. Others were like Patricia's tentative steps toward healing. Vincent answered every single one. He never made excuses, never tried to justify what he'd done, just accepted responsibility and offered what small comfort he could. Sarah noticed the change in Vincent. He was becoming softer, more human. The cold mask he'd worn for decades was crumbling, replaced by genuine emotion. "The letters are destroying you," she observed one day. Vincent nodded. "Good. I deserve to be destroyed, but maybe something better can grow in the ruins. Okay, I need to pause here for a second. Are you okay? Is your heart breaking along with Vincent's? Are you seeing the transformation, feeling the weight of what redemption truly costs? This story is about to get even more intense, even more emotional. We're going to witness miracles and heartbreak, justice and mercy, endings and beginnings. If you're invested, if you need to see how this all resolves, then subscribe to this channel right now. Hit that like button. Share this video with someone who needs to hear that change is possible, that even the darkest souls can find light. Comment below. Do you believe Vincent can truly be redeemed? Can a monster become human again? I want to hear your thoughts. Now, let's continue this journey, because we're about to witness something extraordinary. 2 years into Vincent's sentence, Luna was ready for placement. The recipient was a Marine Corps veteran named James Patterson. James had served 3 tours in Afghanistan, where he'd witnessed horrors that no human should ever see. He'd returned home with severe PTSD, depression, and survivor's guilt, so crushing it had driven him to 3 suicide attempts. James came to the prison for the official handover, a standard procedure that allowed veterans to meet the trainers who'd prepared their service dogs. Vincent wasn't supposed to be part of the ceremony. Sarah typically handled handovers alone, but James had specifically requested to meet the inmate who trained Luna. They met in a small conference room. James was 34 years old, hollow-eyed, with the haunted look of someone who'd seen too much death. Pip was curled up at Vincent's feet. Luna sat beside Vincent, perfectly behaved, her tail wagging slightly. "You're Vincent Caruso," James said. "It wasn't a question." "I am. I looked you up. You're a murderer. A mob boss. You killed 17 people directly. God knows how many more indirectly. 70 that I ordered or carried out personally. Hundreds if you count indirect deaths." "Yes." James studied him. "Why should I take a dog trained by a killer?" Vincent had prepared for this question. "You shouldn't. If you're uncomfortable, Sarah can find you another dog. But I want you to know something first." He gestured to Pip. "This dog saved my life. Not because I deserved it. I was cruel to him, ignored him, barely acknowledged his existence. But when I was buried alive, he dug for 3 days to reach me. He destroyed his paws, nearly died. And he did it because he loved me despite what I am." Vincent's voice cracked. "Luna is going to save your life too. Not from a coffin, but from the darkness in your mind. I trained her to detect anxiety attacks, to provide pressure therapy during flashbacks, to wake you from nightmares, to give you a reason to get up in the morning." He looked directly at James. "I'm a terrible person who did terrible things, but I trained Luna to be perfect. Because someone like you, someone who actually served his country, who sacrificed for others, deserves the best, and she is the best." James was silent for a long moment. Then he asked, "Can I see what she can do?" Vincent demonstrated Luna's skills, how she could detect elevated heart rate and respiratory changes that preceded panic attacks, how she provided deep pressure therapy by laying across James's chest, how she could retrieve medication, turn on lights, even call for help using a specially designed alert button. By the end of the demonstration, James was crying. "I haven't felt hopeful in years," he said. "I wake up every morning wishing I hadn't. But this dog, she might actually help." "She will help," Vincent said with certainty. "She loves you already. Look at her." Luna had moved to sit beside James, leaning against his leg. Her eyes were fixed on him with an expression of pure devotion. James reached down to pet her, and Luna licked his hand. Something in James's face changed, a tiny light appearing in the darkness. "Thank you," he said to Vincent. I don't understand how a man like you can create something this good, but thank you. After James left with Luna, Sarah approached Vincent. You know he's going to follow up, right? Veterans in the program report back every month. You're going to hear about how Luna helps him. About his progress. Vincent smiled a real smile, the first Sarah had seen from him. Good. I want to know. I want to know that something I did actually helped instead of hurt. James Patterson's recovery was documented in monthly reports that Sarah shared with Vincent. Month 1. Luna has already made a difference. She woke me from 3 nightmares this week. Her presence makes the apartment feel less empty. Month 3. I had a panic attack at the grocery store. Luna detected it before I did and led me outside. I was able to use my breathing techniques because she gave me warning. First time I've successfully managed an attack in years. Month 6. I got a job. Part-time at a bookstore. Luna comes with me. Customers love her. I haven't felt this normal in. I can't remember how long. Month 9. I called my sister. We hadn't spoken in 2 years because I pushed everyone away. Luna sat with me during the call. My sister cried when I told her I was doing better. We're having dinner next month. Month 12. I'm not suicidal anymore. I actually want to live. Luna is the reason. Please thank Vincent for me. Tell him he saved my life. Vincent wept when he read that last report. Sarah handed him a tissue. You did this, she said. You gave James his life back. Luna did this, I just helped. Vincent. You've trained 8 dogs now. 8 veterans, 3 autistic children, and 2 people with mobility issues have had their lives transformed. That's 11 people who are better off because of you. Vincent shook his head. It doesn't balance the scales. 70 deaths versus 11 improved lives? I'm still 69 souls in debt. Maybe you can't balance the scales, Sarah said gently. Maybe that's not the point. Maybe the point is that you're trying, that you're adding good to the world instead of harm. More success stories followed. An autistic child named Emma, who'd been nonverbal, learned to communicate with her service dog, Buddy, and eventually with her parents. A wheelchair user named Marcus gained independence through his mobility assistance dog, Zeus. A veteran named Sarah, same name as the trainer, overcame her fear of leaving the house with the help of her dog, Athena. Each story was a small miracle. Each dog was a life saved, a family restored, a future reclaimed. And each one bore Vincent's fingerprints. 3 years into Vincent's sentence, a journalist named Rebecca Torres from the Chicago Tribune contacted the prison, requesting an interview. Rebecca was working on a piece about criminal rehabilitation and the service dog program. She wanted to feature Vincent's transformation. Vincent's first instinct was to refuse. He didn't want publicity, didn't want to be praised for doing what he should have been doing all along. But Sarah convinced him otherwise. This could help the program. More funding, more dogs, more lives saved. It's not about you, it's about them. The interview took place over 3 sessions. Rebecca was thorough, asking about Vincent's criminal past, his time in the coffin, Pip's rescue, and his work with service dogs. Do you think you've been redeemed? She asked during the final session. Vincent thought carefully before answering. No, redemption isn't something you achieve, it's something you work toward. I'll never undo the harm I caused, never bring back the people I killed. But I can spend every remaining day trying to add more good than harm to the world. Some people would say you're just trying to make yourself feel better, that this is all selfish easing your guilt. They might be right. I don't know my own motivations well enough to be certain. But even if it is selfish, the dogs still help people. The veterans still get their lives back. Does my motivation matter if the outcome is good? The article was published on a Sunday and went viral within hours. The headline: From Mafia Boss to Miracle Worker. How a Dog's Love Transformed Chicago's Most Ruthless Criminal. The piece included interviews with James Patterson, Emma's parents, Marcus, and other recipients of Vincent's trained dogs. It included photos of Pip with his scarred paws. It included excerpts from letters between Vincent and his victims' families. The response was overwhelming. Half the comments were supportive. Everyone deserves a second chance. Judge people by who they're becoming, not who they were. This is what rehabilitation should look like. The other half were outraged. He's a murderer. No amount of dog training erases that. The families of his victims are suffering while he gets praised for training puppies. This is disgusting glorification of a monster. Vincent read every comment, the negative ones especially. They're not wrong, he told Sarah. I am a murderer. This doesn't erase it. No, Sarah agreed. But it adds to the story. You're not just a murderer anymore. You're also a trainer who saved lives. Both things are true. People have to decide for themselves what that means. 4 years into his sentence, Vincent received a visitor request that shocked him. Isabella Romano, Dante's ex-girlfriend. The woman whose loss had driven Dante to bury Vincent alive. Vincent almost declined. What could she possibly want? To scream at him? To tell him he'd destroyed her life too? But curiosity won. He accepted. Isabella was 41 now, still beautiful, but with a weariness in her eyes. She sat across from Vincent in the visiting room, separated by plexiglass. Thank you for seeing me, she said. Why are you here? Because I need to understand. Dante is in maximum security in Colorado. I visited him once, 2 years ago. He's broken, completely broken. He kept talking about you, about what he did, about revenge that turned to ash in his mouth. She paused, gathering her thoughts. I need to know, did you deserve what he did to you? Vincent didn't hesitate. Yes, I took you from him. Not physically, but I might as well have. He loved you, wanted to build a life with you, and I threatened to kill you if he didn't cut contact. So yes, I deserve to be buried alive. Isabella's eyes widened. You think you deserved that? I think I deserved worse. I killed 70 people, Isabella. 70 families destroyed. What's being buried alive compared to that? But you've changed. I read the article. You train service dogs. You're helping people. That doesn't undo what I did. It just means I'm trying to be better than I was. Isabella studied him for a long moment. Dante destroyed both our lives trying to get revenge on you. And you're here, doing something good, while he rots in a cell hating everyone, including himself. How is that fair? It's not fair. Nothing about this is fair. The people I killed didn't get a second chance. Their families didn't get closure. Dante doesn't get the peace of successful revenge. And I don't get the comfort of thinking I've made up for my crimes. None of it is fair. Then what's the point? Vincent looked down at Pip, who'd been sleeping at his feet. The point is that we keep trying anyway. We don't get to choose what we deserve. We just get to choose what we do with the time we have left. Isabella started crying. I married someone else, had a daughter, built a good life in San Francisco. But I still think about Dante sometimes. About what we could have been if he hadn't been in that life, if you hadn't threatened me. I'm sorry, truly, deeply sorry. I destroyed something good because I could, because I didn't value love or happiness or human connection. I was a machine that consumed good things and produced suffering. And now? Now I'm still a machine, but I'm trying to produce something other than suffering. It's all I know how to do. Isabella left shortly after. Vincent never saw her again, but he received a letter from her a month later. I forgive you, not because you deserve it, but because I don't want to carry hatred anymore. I hope you continue to change. I hope the dogs you train save lives. And I hope somehow that counts for something. Tell Dante, if you ever communicate with him, that I forgive him too, and that I hope he finds peace. Vincent kept that letter. He never wrote to Dante. They weren't allowed contact, and even if they were, he didn't know what he would say. But he kept Isabella's forgiveness like a treasure, proof that healing was possible even in the darkest circumstances. 5 years into his sentence, on a cold Tuesday in October, Vincent received news that made him weep. Mrs. Chen had died. Mrs. Chen was the elderly widow who'd adopted Pip after Vincent went to prison. She'd sent Vincent pictures and updates every month for 5 years. Pip in sweaters, Pip in her garden, Pip sleeping on silk pillows. The letters had been a lifeline. Knowing Pip was loved, was happy, had given Vincent comfort during his darkest moments. Now she was gone. And according to the letter from her lawyer, Mrs. Chen had left specific instructions in her will. Pip was to be returned to Vincent. The prison doesn't allow pets, the warden told Vincent when he requested the transfer. Only service dogs in training. Pip isn't in training. He's fully grown and he's not a service dog. He saved my life, Vincent said quietly. He's the reason I'm here, the reason I changed, please. The warden, a man named Thomas Rodriguez, who'd watched Vincent's transformation over 5 years, sighed. Let me see what I can do. Rodriguez made calls. To the Department of Corrections, to the State Corrections Board, to anyone who might have the authority to approve an exception. It took 3 months. 3 months during which Vincent barely slept, terrified that Pip would end up in a shelter, would be adopted by someone else, would forget him. Finally, Rodriguez came to Vincent's cell with a smile. Approval came through. Pip can live with you. The official designation is Emotional Support Animal. First time in Indiana Corrections history. 2 weeks later, a victim advocate named Jennifer Morrison, the same FBI agent who'd investigated Vincent's case, arrived at the prison carrying a small dog carrier. Pip was 7 years old now. His muzzle had gone gray. He moved a little slower. But when Jennifer opened the carrier and Pip saw Vincent, the years disappeared. The little dog launched himself at Vincent with a speed that belied his age. He jumped into Vincent's arms, licking his face frantically, whimpering with joy. Vincent sank to his knees, holding Pip close, sobbing so hard he could barely breathe. I missed you so much. Thank you for coming back. Thank you. Pip's tail wagged so hard his entire body shook. The other inmates in the common area, hardened criminals serving time for everything from robbery to murder, watched in silence. Several were crying. That's love right there, someone said quietly. That's what love looks like. With Pip back, Vincent's life in prison transformed completely. Pip attended every dog training session. He became a teaching tool. Vincent would demonstrate commands with Pip before working with the larger service dogs in training. But more than that, Pip became the prison's unofficial therapy dog. Inmates who were struggling, who were depressed, who were contemplating suicide, would request time with Pip. The little Yorkshire Terrier would sit with them, let them pet him, share his quiet comfort. He doesn't judge, an inmate named David told Vincent. David was serving life for a double homicide committed during a robbery. He just sits there and lets me talk. Makes me feel like maybe I'm not completely evil. Vincent understood. Pip had done the same for him. The years passed. Vincent trained more dogs, 18 total by his 7th year, 23 by his 10th. Each one went to someone who needed help. Veterans, children, disabled individuals, people struggling with mental illness. The success stories continued to pour in. Lives saved, families restored, hope rekindled in the darkest places. Vincent never forgot what he'd done. The ghosts of his victims still visited him in dreams. But now they were joined by other visions. James Patterson smiling with Luna, Emma communicating with Buddy, Marcus navigating his home independently with Zeus. The scales would never balance. Vincent knew that. 70 deaths versus 37 lives improved? The math didn't work. But Sarah had been right. Maybe that wasn't the point. 15 years into his sentence, Vincent became eligible for his first parole hearing. He didn't want to go. Didn't want to ask for freedom he didn't deserve. But Sarah convinced him otherwise. The world needs you out here more than it needs you in there, she argued. You could train more dogs, help more people, expand the program to other prisons. Vincent, you've found your purpose. Don't waste it. The hearing was held on a Thursday morning. The parole board consisted of 5 members, 2 former judges, a psychologist, a social worker, and a corrections official. They'd reviewed Vincent's file. 70 murders, 4 life sentences, but also 15 years of model behavior, 37 service dogs trained, dozens of letters from veterans and families whose lives had been changed. The chair of the board, former Judge Elizabeth Martinez, spoke first. Mr. Caruso, in my 30 years in the justice system, I've never seen a file quite like yours. The crimes you committed were horrific. The transformation you've undergone is remarkable. She paused, looking at Pip, who sat quietly at Vincent's feet. Tell me about the dog. Vincent told the story, all of it. The coffin, the darkness, the 3 days, Pip's destroyed paws, the hikers, the miracle. By the end, 2 board members were crying. Why should we release you? Judge Martinez asked. You shouldn't, Vincent said simply. I committed terrible crimes. I destroyed families. I deserve to spend the rest of my life in prison. I'm not asking for release. I don't expect it. But if you do choose to release me, I promise I'll spend every remaining day training dogs, helping people, and trying to add more good than harm to this world. The board deliberated for 2 hours. When they returned, Judge Martinez's face was unreadable. Mr. Caruso, we've made a decision. 3 members voted for parole, 2 voted against. The majority rules. Vincent's heart pounded. We're granting parole with conditions. You'll be released under strict supervision. You'll continue working with service dog programs. You'll make yourself available for speaking engagements about rehabilitation and redemption. You'll meet monthly with a parole officer. Any violation sends you back to complete your sentence. Do you accept these terms? Vincent could barely speak. Yes, I accept. Then you'll be released in 30 days. Vincent Caruso walked out of prison on a Tuesday morning in November, 15 years after entering. He was 58 years old. His hair was completely gray. He'd aged visibly, but in a way that made him look more human, less like the cold machine he'd been. Pip was in his arms, older now but still vital. Sarah was waiting outside in her car. She'd agreed to help Vincent transition to life outside, finding him an apartment, setting up his parole requirements, getting him started with a service dog training facility in Chicago. "How does it feel?" she asked, as Vincent got into the passenger seat. Vincent looked around at the world, the sky, the trees, the freedom of open space. "Terrifying. I don't know how to be free. I've been locked up for 15 years. Before that, I was locked up in my own cruelty. You'll figure it out. You have time." They drove to a small apartment Sarah had found, a one-bedroom in a modest building on Chicago's north side. Nothing like Vincent's former mansion. Perfect. The apartment building had a strict no-pets policy, but Sarah had negotiated an exception for Pip. Emotional support animal, medical necessity, they can't legally refuse. Vincent spent his first night of freedom sitting on the floor of his empty apartment. Pip curled in his lap. "We made it," he whispered to the dog. "Against all odds, we made it." Pip's tail wagged gently. Vincent threw himself into his new life with the same intensity he'd once applied to crime. He worked with a service dog training facility called New Horizons, using the skills he'd developed in prison. He trained dogs for veterans, for children, for anyone who needed help. But he also did something else. He spoke. At veterans groups, at schools, at rehabilitation centers, anywhere people would listen. He told his story, the crimes, the darkness, the coffin, Pip's rescue, the transformation. "I don't tell you this to make excuses," he would say. "I tell you this because if someone like me, someone who was so lost in darkness they couldn't see light, can change, then anyone can. Change is possible. Redemption is possible. Not redemption that erases the past, but redemption that adds enough good to the future that the scales start to tip." Young people especially responded to his message. Kids from rough neighborhoods who saw crime as their only option. Teenagers involved in gangs. "I was you," Vincent would tell them. "I thought violence made me strong. That cruelty made me powerful. I was wrong. The strongest thing I ever did was admit I was broken and ask for help. The most powerful thing I ever did was train a dog to help someone I'd never meet." After one speaking engagement at a Chicago high school, a 16-year-old boy approached him. "Mr. Caruso, I'm in a gang. I want out, but I don't know how." Vincent looked at the kid, really looked at him. Saw himself 35 years ago. "What's your name?" "Miguel." "Miguel, leaving is hard. They'll call you a coward, a traitor. They might threaten you. But here's what I learned. Being called a coward by people who are too scared to leave is the bravest thing you can do." Vincent gave Miguel his number. "Call me. Anytime. If you need help getting out, if you need a job, if you just need to talk, call me." Miguel called 3 days later. With Vincent's help and a program for at-risk youth, Miguel left his gang. He enrolled in community college. 2 years later, he sent Vincent a photo of his associate's degree. One life saved. The scales tipped slightly. 5 years after his release, 20 years after being buried alive, Vincent received a phone call that nearly stopped his heart. "Mr. Caruso, this is James Patterson." Vincent froze. James Patterson, the first veteran to receive one of his trained dogs. Luna's recipient. "James, is everything okay? Is Luna?" "Luna's fine. She's 12 now, slowing down, but still helping me every day. That's actually why I'm calling." Vincent waited, his pulse racing. "I'm starting a foundation, a nonprofit that trains and places service dogs specifically for veterans with PTSD. I have funding from donors, I have space for a facility, but I need someone to run the training program. Someone who understands these dogs, understands veterans, understands what it's like to come back from the edge." James paused. "I want you to run it, Vincent. I want you to train the trainers, build a program that can place hundreds of dogs, save hundreds of lives." Vincent sat down heavily. Pip, now 12 years old himself, hobbled over and put his head on Vincent's knee. "James, I'm an ex-con, A former mob boss. I killed people. No foundation board would approve. I own the foundation. I'm the board. And I'm offering you the job. What you did before matters. But what you've done since matters more. Vincent started crying. I don't deserve this. Maybe not. But the veterans who'll get these dogs deserve the best training possible. And you're the best. So are you going to let your past stop you from helping them? Vincent took a shaky breath. No, I'm not. When do I start? 3 months later, the Patterson Foundation Training Center opened in suburban Chicago. A state-of-the-art facility with space for 30 dogs in training, a full-time staff of 8 trainers, and a director with gray hair and scars on his soul. Vincent Caruso had found his calling. Over the next 10 years, the Patterson Foundation placed over 500 service dogs with veterans across the United States. Vincent personally trained 73 of them. The number was significant, one more than the people he'd killed. It wasn't enough. Could never be enough. But it was something. The foundation expanded. Satellite training centers opened in 5 states. Vincent trained other trainers, passing on the knowledge Pip had first taught him about unconditional love and persistence. He was 73 years old when Pip finally began to fail. The little Yorkshire Terrier was 17, ancient for a dog his size. He'd lived a long, full life. But age had caught up with him. His legs barely worked. His vision was failing. His breathing was labored. Vincent knew what was coming. He'd known for months. On a quiet Tuesday in spring, Vincent carried Pip to the vet's office. The veterinarian was Dr. Patterson, no relation to James, who'd treated Pip for years. It's time, isn't it? Vincent asked, though he already knew the answer. Dr. Patterson examined Pip gently. The dog's tail gave the faintest wag at the familiar touch. I'm afraid so. His organs are shutting down. He's in pain, though he's trying to hide it for you. We can make him comfortable, but keeping him alive would be selfish. Yes. Vincent held Pip in his arms, settled into a comfortable chair the vet provided. Dr. Patterson prepared the injection. Thank you, Vincent whispered to Pip. Thank you for saving me, not just from the coffin, from myself. You showed me what love looks like, what loyalty looks like, what being good looks like. Tears streamed down his face. I hope I made you proud. I hope I became the person you always thought I was. Pip licked his hand weakly. One last time. I love you, Vincent said. I never said it enough, but I love you. Dr. Patterson administered the injection. Pip's breathing slowed, then stopped. His eyes closed gently. Vincent sat there holding Pip's body for an hour, sobbing. The staff left him alone. Some things are too sacred to interrupt. Vincent buried Pip in a pet cemetery outside Chicago. The headstone read, Pip, 2018 to 2035. He saved me when I didn't deserve it. He loved me when I couldn't love myself. He showed me what goodness looks like. The best friend I never deserved. The funeral was attended by over 200 people. Veterans with their service dogs, families whose children had received dogs Vincent trained, former inmates from the prison program, Sarah Mitchell, James Patterson. Even some families of Vincent's victims came. Not all had forgiven him, but some had found a path toward healing. Patricia Williams, the daughter of the first man Vincent killed, now in her 50s, spoke at the service. I hated Vincent Caruso for most of my life. He killed my father, destroyed my childhood, gave me a wound that never fully healed. She paused, looking at Vincent. But this dog, this little dog, saw something in him worth saving, and because Pip refused to give up on Vincent, hundreds of people have been helped. Veterans who might have committed suicide are alive. Children who couldn't communicate are thriving. People who'd lost hope have found it again. Her voice broke. My father would have liked Pip. He loved dogs. And I hope he would have forgiven Vincent eventually. Seeing what Vincent became, what he built from the ruins of what he was. She walked over to Vincent and hugged him. Thank you for changing. It doesn't bring my father back, but it means his death wasn't completely meaningless. You used your guilt to fuel something good. Vincent lived for 7 more years after Pip's death. He continued training dogs, though he moved to a more supervisory role. His body was failing. Decades of stress and violence had taken their toll. He had heart problems, arthritis, chronic pain. But he kept working, kept speaking, kept trying to add more good to the world. On his 80th birthday, the Patterson Foundation honored him with a gala fundraiser. The theme, From Darkness to Light, 25 years of transformation. Vincent gave a speech. His last major public appearance. "I killed 70 people," he began, his voice weak but clear. "I destroyed countless families. I spent the first 43 years of my life being a monster." He paused, looking out at the crowd. "Then I was buried alive, and a 3-pound dog dug through 6 feet of earth to save me. That act of unconditional love changed everything. People ask me if I've been redeemed. I don't know. I don't think redemption is something you achieve. It's something you work toward until you die. I'll never undo the harm I caused, but I can and have spent every day since trying to add more good than harm." He pulled out a worn piece of paper. "This is a list of names. All 70 people I killed. I keep it with me always. I read it every night before bed. I remember who they were, what I took from their families." His voice broke. "But I also keep another list. The names of everyone who's been helped by the dogs I've trained. That list is much longer now. Over 600 names. It doesn't erase the first list, but it exists alongside it. That's what redemption looks like, I think. Not erasing the darkness, but adding enough light that both can exist together. Not balance, but at least coexistence." He finished to a standing ovation that lasted 5 minutes. Vincent Caruso died on a Tuesday morning in autumn, 25 years after being buried alive. He died in his sleep, peacefully, in the apartment he'd lived in since leaving prison. He was 80 years old. On his nightstand were 2 photographs, one of Pip with his scarred paws, one of Vincent with Luna and James Patterson, all 3 smiling. His funeral was held at a church, ironic for a man who'd spent most of his life without faith. But somewhere in the journey from monster to human, Vincent had found something resembling belief. Not in traditional religion, but in the possibility of change, of growth, of grace. The church was packed. Over 400 people attended. The eulogy was given by James Patterson, now 61 years old and director of the Patterson Foundation. Vincent Caruso was a complicated man. He committed terrible crimes, hurt people in ways that can never be fully healed. If he were here, he'd tell you that first. He never ran from what he'd done. James paused, collecting himself. "But he was also the man who trained Luna, who taught me that even from the darkest pits of despair, there's a way back, who showed me that change, real, fundamental change, is possible." A lot of people want to simplify Vincent's story, make him either a monster or a saint. He was neither. He was a man who did monstrous things, then spent 25 years trying to be better. Not perfect, better. James looked out at the assembled crowd, veterans with service dogs, families, former inmates, volunteers from the foundation. "Because of Vincent, I'm alive. Because of him, hundreds of veterans are managing their PTSD. Dozens of children are thriving. Families are whole that might have been broken." His voice strengthened. That's his legacy. Not the crimes, those will be remembered too, as they should be. But also this. One man's determination to be better than he was. One man's refusal to let his past define his future. One man who learned unconditional love from a 3-pound dog and spent the rest of his life trying to share it. The Patterson Foundation Training Center is now the largest service dog training facility in the United States. It places over 300 dogs annually. The Vincent Caruso Fellowship was established 3 years after his death, providing scholarships for at-risk youth to learn dog training and animal care. 73 scholarships are awarded each year, one for each life Vincent took. In the center's main lobby hangs a photograph. A tiny Yorkshire Terrier with scarred paws. Beneath it, a plaque. Pip 2018 to 2035. Who taught us that love doesn't require perfection, only persistence. In memory of the dog who wouldn't quit. And the man who learned to be worthy of that devotion. James Patterson, now 81 and retired, still visits the center weekly. He brings flowers to place beneath Pip's photo. "People ask me how I could forgive Vincent," James says to visitors. "How I could honor a man who killed people. And I tell them, I don't honor who he was. I honor who he became. There's a difference." He pauses, looking at Pip's photo. That dog saw something in Vincent worth saving. And thank God he did. Because of Pip's refusal to give up, thousands of lives have been saved. That's the miracle. Not just one dog rescuing one man, but one dog's love creating a ripple effect that's still spreading. The center receives letters daily. From veterans whose lives were saved by their service dogs, from families whose children are thriving, from people who heard Vincent's story and found hope in their own darkness. One letter, framed in James's office, reads, "Dear Patterson Foundation, my name is Miguel Reyes. 20 years ago, I was a 16-year-old gang member heading nowhere good. Vincent Caruso helped me get out, gave me his phone number, helped me find a path. I'm now a veterinarian. I specialize in service dog training, and I'm writing to apply for a position at your foundation. I want to continue Vincent's work. Want to help dogs help people, the way Pip helped Vincent, the way Vincent helped me. That's how change spreads, one person at a time, one dog at a time. Thank you for keeping his legacy alive. Miguel Reyes, DVM." Miguel was hired. He's now head of training. The cycle continues. So here we are. The end of a story that defied everything we thought we knew about good, evil, redemption, and love. Vincent Caruso was a monster who became human, not through grand gestures or divine intervention, but through the persistent, unconditional love of a 3-pound dog who refused to give up. I want to hear from you, right now, in the comments below. Do you believe Vincent was truly redeemed? Can a person who's committed such evil ever truly change? Or was it all just a desperate attempt to ease his guilt? Tell me your thoughts. Share your stories. Have you ever had an animal show you unconditional love? Have you ever watched someone transform from darkness to light? And if this story moved you, if it made you cry, made you think, made you believe that change is possible, then do something for me. Subscribe to this channel right now. Hit that red button, ring the notification bell, because every single day I bring you stories like this. Stories of hope and tragedy, of miracles and heartbreak, of the incredible resilience of the human and animal spirit. Share this video with someone who needs to hear that it's never too late to change, that even in our darkest moments, love can reach us. That redemption isn't about erasing the past, it's about building a better future. Like this video, comment below, tell me where you're watching from, tell me what this story meant to you. Vincent Caruso spent 43 years being a monster. He spent the next 25 years trying to be better. The scales never balanced, they never could. But maybe that's okay. Maybe redemption isn't about balance. Maybe it's about the try. The persistent, exhausting, never-ending try to be better than you were yesterday. Pip taught us that. He dug for 3 days when any rational creature would have quit after 3 minutes. He persisted when persistence was impossible. And because he refused to give up on a monster, hundreds of people were saved. That's the miracle. That's the legacy. That's the power of love that doesn't quit. Subscribe, like, comment, share, and never forget, you're capable of more change than you think. Your past doesn't define your future. And somewhere, maybe, there's a Pip waiting to show you what unconditional love looks like. See you in the next story. Until then, remember, keep digging, even when it seems impossible, especially when it seems impossible. Because on the other side of that impossible task might be salvation.